Frog Fractions led gamers down a rabbit hole of shaving presidents, GameBoy ROMs, and time travel. Here's the story of gaming's greatest mystery. Gaming mysteries captivate and enthrall fans, often providing them with new ways to experience and explore the lore behind some of their favorite games. Franchises like Far Cry, Call of Duty, and Trails are well known for their intricate Easter eggs and secrets, with some even leaking into the real world. A gaming mystery that is often forgotten was the mystery behind Twinbird Studios' Frog Fractions. The original Frog Fractions was a gaming oddity that, on the surface, looks like a simple educational game that teaches kids about fractions. However, those who've played it know there's much more lurking beneath the water. Literally, from engaging in a self-argument about cybernetic implants' nature to becoming the bug president. Frog Fractions is a peculiar game that has an even weirder sequel. The game's lead developer, known as Jim Stormdancer, described the alternate reality game ARG that lead up to Frog Fractions' release as being an entire game in itself. The ARG spanned multiple years and even to different ARGs that were once thought to be unrelated. Around the same time the Frog Fractions ARG was starting, players discovered cryptic sigils hidden in other games on Steam. According to Stormdancer, different developers assisted him by hiding these sigils in their games. Games that included these sigils included Crypt of the Necrodancer, Firewatch, Moon Hunters, and even QWOP. These sigils were originally thought to be their own separate ARG unrelated to the Frog Fractions ARG, which had already had major developments while these sigils were being discovered. The ARG officially began when Frog Fractions' Kickstarter launched, as the pitch video was quickly found to contain a secret URL. This URL led players to Twinbread after following a red herring that ended with a GameBoy ROM rickrolling them. Players quickly discovered a secret page on the website that contained a series of instructions. These instructions mentioned a keypad, which players quickly discovered existed in Frog Fractions' text adventure. The instructions had players bake a loaf of bread in-game, which led to them being redirected to a browser game called Obama Shaving Simulator. The gameplay of Obama Shaving Simulator was exactly what it sounded like. Players would try to perfectly shave former US President Barack Obama before a time limit expired. At the end of each session, fake tweets would be shown on screen. If a player perfectly shaved Obama before the timer expired, they'd be given a tweet instructing players to go to a set of coordinates in April. These coordinates sent players to a Berkeley, California location, where they met with Frog Fractions developer Jim Stormdancer. Stormdancer, carrying a brown paper bag, would hand out Twinbird Studio business cards that contained both a string of code and part of a web address. Stormdancer would lead a group of players on a walk around the area, which would eventually lead to a man in a toffet pulling out a plastic gun and aiming it at Stormdancer. Stormdancer would then be arrested by Time Police, who listed several references to the original Frog Fractions as Stormdancer's crimes. During the arrest, Stormdancer would drop the brown paper bag he had been carrying to reveal 10 floppy disks, a wooden frog statue, and a series of bug-related stickers. The floppy disks contained several bugs and more code images, which would lead players to a website dedicated to a time travel club after several additional steps. It was around this time that the sigils were discovered and assumed to be a separate ARG to Frog Fractions. Up until this point, those participating in the ARG would have found codes hidden in podcasts, bug-related YouTube channels, Twitter accounts, Luigi amiibos, and even Mario Maker levels. These codes were either contained within or would lead to time travel-related lore that also seemed to suggest that the versions of real people, such as Stormdancer, were actually from a different timeline. The Frog Fractions ARG's lore building seemed to support this idea, and even alluded to some of the themes of the eventual Frog Fractions. The Frog Fractions ARG would, seemingly, enter its final stages after players completed a special escape room, met with a man dressed as a bee who called himself a business analyst, and used codes to find a specific book in a library. The book contained a note from one of the ARG's characters and a link to several D models that, when de-printed and assembled, formed a Frog Fractions-themed trophy. Many fans took this to mean that the ARG was either concluding or nearing its end. This theory proved to be when players found a new page on the Twinbread website that contained a Unity game called Unboxing Story that allowed users to type in words and watch videos that matched the said search. When the password from the sigil ARG was entered, players would be shown a maze themed around said sigil that, once completed, asked for the players investigating the ARG to choose one of their own to send their mailing address to receive a package which would contain a button allowing the player to launch Frog Fractions. The moment said the button was pressed, a game on Steam called Glittermid and Groves received a massive update that turned out to be Frog Fractions. The multi-year gaming mystery finally came to a close. The Frog Fractions ARG is perhaps one of the biggest gaming mysteries of all time and one that won't soon be forgotten. A writer for CBR since September, Jacob Cresswell is a lifelong writer and gamer. Has written for local and global publication, Lovers of Animal Crossing, Undertale, Team Fortress, and a little professional wrestling on the side. Often can be found doing way more research than needed for his video game theories. Can also be found on his Twitter, Cardiology. Thank you for watching our free video. If you liked it, make sure to click the like button for more videos in the future.